and welcome to another episode of the Tell That Show. As always, we have the fabulous Kirsha Fox, author of the Deception and Justice series. She's a homeschooling mom of four, avid reader, and gamer.
And my co-host is Julia J.K. Allen, editor, author, and author coach. She's a fantasy and horror author who loves to put magic in everything. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest tonight is Heidi Hess. She's an author, artist, and promoter. She's written several short story collections, and several more of her short stories have been included in anthologies. In addition to her fiction addiction, Heidi White writes as a columnist. She is currently working on a new thriller series. Welcome, Heidi.
Hey.
Hello. Yes.
So tell us about your writing journey. What got you started and why?
Yeah, so my writing journey, it really kind of began during the pandemic. Everybody had a lot of time on their hands, and I went ahead and I sat down and just started writing. I knew some people that had an anthology out. One of them was The Light That Never Goes Out by Neon Sunrise Publishing. And it was a hope-themed anthology based on kind of the hopelessness that people were feeling during the pandemic. And I sat down and I wrote this sci-fi story about three civilizations far, far away in a galaxy far, far away. And they're all on the brink, really, of destruction. And they're all counting on this comet. There's a comet that has been foretold. And they're looking to this comet for solutions. That, oh, it's going to cure this, or it's going to relieve us of that. And I thought, there's a bigger picture here and there's a bigger story. And especially during the pandemic, we all kind of learned to lean on each other, I think. And so I think that story really kind of highlighted that it's not external things, it's us leaning on each other. So that was really my start. That's how I got my start there. And then I've always really enjoyed reading horror, paranormal, science fiction, that kind of a thing. And then I wrote a short story for D&T Publishing, and that was straight horror. That was for an anthology called It's All Fun and Games Until Somebody Dies. And so you had to come up with a short story. So it was so much fun. And so the short story that the game that I picked, you couldn't pick Monopoly. Monopoly was, you'd get in trouble for using Monopoly. So I picked Spin the Bottle, and I thought, how can we make this really, really bad? And when I got done writing it, I was like, oh, this is good. This is really good. So they published it, and that was my first. Yeah, that was my first paid writing gig. And so that was pretty exciting. So that's really kind of how I got my start. And then after that, I just started writing stories for fun. And then I started collecting them. I started to see a theme. And so The Short End of Madness is all stories loosely based on people that are going mad or already are mad. And then after that, it was A Short Road of Shadows. And that's kind of like my creepy vacation. It's these paranormal, weird stories that take place all over the globe. I call that, it's my creepy vacation. I don't know how else to explain that.
I love that terminology.
Yeah, creepy vacation. It's trying to explain to people, what it is. It's hard because I don't write genre. You know what I mean? Like I say paranormal for lack of a better term, but really everything that I write is genre spanning. So sometimes it's science fiction, sometimes it's straight horror, sometimes it's fantasy. But I find that the things that I'm writing now are very female forward, we've got some strong female characters in it. And the Chronicles of Chaos, I have 3 or 4 stories in there that are like just women that are angry. And it's fun watching the transformation that happens within them. So yeah.
Yes,
right.
I love those themes. Yeah, how wonderful. I also write, so speculative fiction is kind of that umbrella term for horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. I started out with fantasy, and then someone just kind of dared me to try horror because I was like, I'm such a chicken. How could I write horror? Right? I love watching it and reading it, but I was like, oh, I could never. But it was so fun to have like that thought experiment of like what makes something scary and creepy, and how can I play with that to make my story scary and creepy. And so I fell in love with horror that way too. So I really relate to how you were talking about your journey into like the different genres.
Yeah, I know in The Short End of Madness, there's a story that's in there, and it doesn't get any more horrific than this one particular story.
Yeah.
It is rough. It is hard, like hard horror. And when I wrote it, I sat down and I was like, I can't believe I just wrote that. I can't believe I just wrote that. That's really kind of scary. It's kind of creepy. I don't usually write gory, but
Right.
this was full on. Yeah,
Yeah.
this I was like, wow, where did this come from? I don't know. It was a little
Well, better
creepy.
out than in, I always say, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
know what you
right,
mean.
right.
Sometimes I write things and I feel like my characters are looking at me going, are you working through something right now? Are you
Are
okay?
you okay?
And I'm like, maybe not, but thank you for your help.
Yeah, no, writing is so cathartic, so therapeutic and wonderful in that way too, though.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chronicles of Chaos when I started. So that's what I do. I'll just sit and I write different stories. I'll have an idea for something. I'll be out and about and I'll get an idea for something and I go ahead and I jump on my phone and I write it, just like a little blurb kind of a thing. And then I sit down later and I kind of play with different ideas. And Chronicles of Chaos, all of the collections, it's just I look at the central theme and I'm like, okay, these can be put together, these can be put together. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, the last collection, Chronicles of Chaos, there are some women that are in there that are really angry about a lot of different things. And I was like, what's happening inside? Hello, subconscious? Hello,
Right. Yes. No, I love it. I mean, I remember when like that Paris Paloma song came out, and I was just like, but I love it so much, leading into the feminine rage, right?
Yeah.
And getting that expression out. It was like, oh, that song was so powerful.
Yeah.
But no, I love a good, strong female character. Yeah, for sure.
Me too.
One of the reasons why I love Miyazaki films because he had a granddaughter, so he wanted to write like inspiring stories where the girl is like the strong, characters that he could like be good role models for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned how you have ideas, you capture them on your phone, you write a little blurb, and then how do you take those ideas and turn them into your finished story?
So, different people have, different ways that they do it. I'm a discovery writer, and so I'll have an idea for a story, and I just sit down. I just sit down with it, and I just start writing. I usually have a pretty good idea of where something is going to start. I usually have a pretty good idea of who's going to tell the story, and I just, I just go ahead and I just start the story and just see where it goes. I usually push on. And I think it's interesting. Like Stephen King, when he talks about his process, one of the things that he does, he sits and he'll listen to music and he kind of goes into, it's like almost like a trance. And I have a very specific album that I listen to. And when I listen to this album, it tells my brain, all right, it's time to get into story mode. And so that's kind of what I do.
Awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. You've hacked your brain to be like, we're doing creative stuff right now, and then you write and discover as you go along, and that's wonderful. Yeah. Do your stories go through like a lot of like revisions, or do they come out like do you change plots a lot, or are they once they come out you tend to stick with it?
Once it comes out, I usually tend to stick with it. I don't usually change things too much, and I will revise and edit as I go, which is good and bad, I suppose. But I usually have a pretty good idea of where the story is going. And again, that's the really beautiful thing about short stories. You can write 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 words, and it's not like you have to, if you want to change something, it's not like you have to go back and be like, oh my gosh, in this chapter, this truck was blue and I said it's red, or even something deeper, like once you finish a story you're like, the wrong person's telling this story, now you have to go back. It's easier to make those changes, those revisions on the fly, instead of like a 100 word novel and then
that's a really good point. Yes. I write like thick monster fantasy books, and it's really an issue keeping track and making sure you're consistent.
Yes, yeah. Now, short stories are great because they can teach you. You can like experiment a lot, and they teach you finishing, right? Sometimes when we're like, I know when I first started my author journey, I was like never finishing novels because I was really into discovery writing, and I'd be like, I don't know what's happening next, and kind of peter out after like chapter 13. So I love when people like really lean into short story writing.
I know a couple of years ago, NaNoWriMo, which is that National Novel Writing Month, I went ahead and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write an entire novel. And so I sat down and I had an idea for something, and I just really dug in, committed to it. And I got about 45,000 words.
Yeah.
And I was creatively dehydrated. I don't know how people like, this is intense. And I finished it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But I mean, literally, it's a vomit on the page, it's just,
right.
And then I remember reading that Stephen King went ahead and he sat down, and when he wrote Pet Sematary, he was like, I can't believe I wrote this. I'm completely disgusted by it. And I'm just going to take it and I'm going to throw it in a drawer and I'm going to forget about it. And then I guess his contract with one of his publishers was getting ready to come up, and they were like, you owe us one more book. And he was like, oh yeah, I got one for you. And he basically gave it to him like, you're going to hate this,
Right.
It blew up.
Yeah, but it did. It blew up. And it's I've read Pet Sematary. It's okay. I know some people really love it, but it's okay.
Right.
Yeah, you never quite know what people will love, and you write what you love and hope it finds its audience.
I know the parts of Pet Sematary that I love actually don't really have anything to do with the pets or the kid or even the family, but there's a description that he gives of when he's on his journey to the Pet Cemetery, and I feel like that's where the magic is in that book. That's my favorite part.
So for you, what is the most important part of writing?
I would say probably it's the downtime. It's the giving myself the time to be able to relax, because that's when the stories pop up. I've had a lot of stories. So we had, this is gonna sound weird. We had a pass to Universal, and so we were going to Universal with the kids a lot. And I found that the line for Hagrid's motorbike, of all places, I would be in this line, and the ideas for stories would just come to me. They would just come to me. But if you don't give yourself whatever it is that you need, if it's relaxation, if it's whatever it is that you need, if those stories don't, if you don't give yourself that opportunity, the stories aren't going to be there. So I think that's probably the most important. And then maybe second, I mean, obviously editing, but I'm not really all that good about that. So. But yeah, I would say giving yourself the time and the space to be able to really imagine and think up the next story. I think that's important.
I love that, because like you were saying earlier, we're kind of like creatively dehydrated. I love that way of phrasing it. And it's so true, because we know we need rest, we need to eat, we need to take care of our physical needs to have like self-care for our physical needs. We need to take care of our mental health and emotions. But like the creativity, that inner world, that spark, we also need to be refueling that with different stories that we're consuming, with everything. Like, so I love that you talk about like how important it is to just daydream, imagine, and fill your creative well that way too.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And I love that now it's a conversation about taking care of ourselves and about self-care. If we're not caring for ourselves, we're not gonna be relaxed, and we're not gonna have the space or the time to daydream. And that's different for different people. My best friend is a super duper extrovert person. She feels her best when she is around a lot of people. And I love people. I love doing the shows, and I love people. But my downtime, my quiet time, that fills my cup. I have to have that. If I don't have that,
Yes. I'm pretty ambiverted. I think I started out extremely extroverted, and then as I got older, I was like, oh no, I love I love it. So I'm like one of those like schedule a social thing like every other week about, and then that's kind of my sweet spot because I'm like, if I go too long without seeing people, then I start to get a little sad. But if I see them too much, then I'm like, oh my, I'm so drained. I can't.
I'm stressed.
Yes,
Get out of face.
yes.
Yeah,
So I totally relate to that.
For me, it's all about which people am I hanging out
Oh
with,
yeah.
am I around? Because some people energize me. They make me feel included and part of the group and loved and
Right.
wanted.
Yes.
Whereas like the most alone I've ever felt has been in large groups of people because like I feel
Right.
invisible. So for me, it's which
Yeah.
people am I with? Am I with other authors? Yeah, I'm home. These are my friends. These are
Right. You're people that understand and get you, yeah, are so
Yeah.
nourishing. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love that
I,
you set aside that time to be creative for you
yes.
as like one of like your self-expression time. It meets
Mhm.
one of your needs for sure.
Absolutely. No,
Definitely.
I love that you
Yeah.
protect that for yourself as well. I did
Yeah.
see a cute thing that was talking about because I know a lot of people, especially a lot of writers, I feel like we hate small talk. But I thought it was the cutest way of looking at it. Someone was like, if you think about it like a dog wagging their tail, like the talk isn't important. It's just like, hi, are you friendly? Like let's have this like
Mhm.
little connection. It's like a bid for connection when you're like waiting in line at the store or whatever. So
Yeah.
that kind of like helped me to be like, oh, it's not so annoying. It's just they want to see like, oh, I'm friendly. Are you friendly too? Let's pass the time together a
That's a
little bit.
good
Because I
way
was
of
like,
looking at it.
yeah, because it's like otherwise it's just like, oh my god, you want to talk about the weather? What are you doing? But yeah, when you're just like, oh no, it's like a friendly wag of the tail of being like, hi, I'm bored. Are you bored too? Let's like spend a few minutes talking.
Right. I love that. I love that that analogy that dogs wagging their tails. I'm just picturing these
Right.
dogs. Hey,
Yeah. I mean, it makes it a much more like pleasant thing rather than like because it always felt like oh my god pulling my teeth out of being like oh I have to like come up with just boring conversation, but it was like no, they're just trying to be friendly, then it makes it so much easier to interact in those
Mhm.
situations.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good way of looking at it.
I know. Doing the shows. If you're behind the table, you have to be really good at small talk. You have to be really good
Mm.
at and that kind of thing. And I love the shows. I love doing the shows. I love talking to people.
Yeah.
When I'm behind the table, if it's like a networking thing, that's much harder for
Right.
me.
Oh
Like
right.
walking
Yeah.
over to people and being like, "Hi, how are you? Who are you?
Well,
Like,
that's
why
because
should
you're
we know
selling
each other?"
yourself rather than selling your books, right? It's so much easier for us to sell the book, sell our products or stories, but then it's like when, oh, I need to sell myself and like why I'd be useful for you to know me, like, oh my gosh, no. Never
Yeah,
want to do that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a book and writing festival that is in Wellington, and we just
Mm-hmm.
had our fourth year last Saturday. It was last Saturday. Now that I think about it, but there's a certain amount of networking that goes along with that, and and wow, is that it's just a
Mm-hmm.
muscle. I think of it as a muscle, and it's just a muscle that I just have to strengthen. That's what I have to do.
Just have to
Yeah, you have to work it out a little, right?
that's a
Everything with
great way.
practice gets a little easier. That's a great
Oh yeah,
analogy. Mm-hmm.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I love that. I'm gonna keep that in mind too. What helps me with events is I'm always like I'm gonna put on my author persona, so it's not me, but it's like the public speaking persona that has a little practice with it. Like I like to imagine like putting that face on and being like okay, it still is
Yeah.
very draining though because like I'm always get very like anxious about things. So like once the event's over and I go home, like the adrenaline wears off and I just kind of like pass out on the couch for
Yeah.
like a couple
Take it
Oh
hours.
till
yeah.
you make it,
Take a
right?
day or two to recover from it. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a show that I did in St. Augustine. It's called Tropicon. And it's run
Mm,
by Lanessa Lane, who is awesome. She's super awesome. Anyway, but
yeah.
she did this really cool thing and it was so fun. So it's not just a signing, right? So in like Comic
Mm-hmm.
Cons, you go to Comic Cons, you set up and it's you sell your books and there's a signing and that kind of a thing. But Tropicon is an actual like book event, right? So she did this really
Oh,
cool
okay.
thing. It was on a Friday and it is so the author organizes something to do, like an outing, and readers show up, and everybody they go out. You go out together as a group. And so I drove in on Friday. I got there. I met a couple of the other the readers, and I was like, "Hey, you guys want to go to the medieval torture museum with me?" And they were, "Yeah, let's go." And it was really cold out. It was like 38 degrees, and so we
No,
walked
yeah.
from the venue over to the medieval torture museum. We did that whole thing, which was really cool. If you like that kind of stuff, it was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And like just talking to the readers and making a connection, and it really just like making new friends. But by the time I got back to my room, I was wiped. I
Oh
was just,
yeah. Oh
this was
yeah.
a whole nother level of tired. But man, was that fun? That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that would be such a fun outing, like to go to like a creepy place and get like a tour and all of that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
Oh
so
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
for books and
And I
bourbon
thought,
in
gosh, I hope
Kentucky last
somebody's
year.
interested in it. You know.
Mm.
I'm
Oh yeah.
sorry. What'd you say?
Oh, I was saying for books and bourbon in Kentucky last year, we went on a ghost tour. And that was
Oh,
so
fun.
much.
Yeah.
I love ghost tours. I love that kind of stuff. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and there's some really good ones in St. Augustine because St. Augustine is the oldest city in the country. And there's a
Oh,
couple of
that's so fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, and if you follow that stuff, there's a lighthouse that's there, and that lighthouse is haunted. So I watch a lot of like the paranormal shows and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
the best episode was the lighthouse in St. Augustine. It's fantastic. It was so good. It's ghost
Wow.
hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's a fun show to watch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you haven't seen that episode, watch it because it will make you a believer. I'm telling you, it'll make you a
Oh,
believer.
okay. I'll have to check
Mhm.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love ghost stories.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I love that kind of stuff. That creepy stuff. I just love that.
Well, and there's so much history embedded in that too. Like when you're telling a ghost story, it's not just what's happening in the present. It's like, oh, what's the past? Where's this ghost from? What's the history of the house or location? So I love that too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know so my daughter is a history major. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and so we've been to a couple different places. We've been to Charleston, we've been to New Orleans. If you want a good ghost story, go to New Orleans because New
Oh, I
Orleans
want
is
to go to New Orleans. I was just talking about that this morning with someone of like, we need to go to New Orleans and go see the spooky
oh,
stuff.
it's fantastic. I've been a couple of different places and stuff, and I have to say the creepiest place that I've ever been, and it was just just walking at night down the street. It's me, my husband, and my husband's 6'6", so like he's intimidation factor, but having him with me,
Nice.
it's like I feel safe. But let me
No,
tell
you
you,
don't have to worry. Yeah.
in New Orleans, you're walking down the streets that are just off of Bourbon Street, and the
Oh,
buildings have eyes. The buildings and the
mm.
street, everything. You feel like you're being watched. It's a little creepy. But what
Well,
at one point with all of the different plagues that went through, like
mhm.
30% of the population died. That's a lot of
Yeah.
people. That's
Mhm.
a
Right,
lot
and
of
especially in such a dramatic fashion. I heard a story that after, like, there's a certain area of New Orleans and a certain time period where taxis won't pick anyone up because they would get too many ghosts and not get paid the fares. So they were just like, we're not doing during like certain hours of the night where they're just like, no. That's what I heard, anyways. And I thought that was like, but I was like, that tracks for New
They
Orleans,
need a
you know?
captcha for their taxis. Are you a
Right.
ghost? Like click
yes,
Do
the
you have money or are you a ghost? Yes.
right. No ghost money taken here. We need the
Yes,
real.
yes.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
was like, only in New Orleans, like, would I 100% believe that's true?
I believe it. Why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah, yeah.
That's really cool. I'm gonna have to really look into that. Oh, that's a story. Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah, yeah,
This is
that's
a
a story
story.
idea for sure.
Yeah.
Inspiration
So when,
everywhere.
yeah,
Right, right, exactly. Inspiration everywhere,
yes,
exactly.
yes. When you begin with your stories, do you start with plot or characters?
It depends. Sometimes it's plot, sometimes it's character. Sometimes I'll have the character. Okay, this is gonna sound weird. Sometimes I have the character tell me the story. Like,
That is not weird
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Not weird at all, though. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Sometimes it's I'll have the character tell me. This is the story, and this is how it should be told. And if I'm writing it wrong, no, no, no,
They stop
no, no, no.
Right, right.
Yeah,
No, they can be
won't
very
vocal.
vocal if you're not getting it right.
right. So, which I guess well, to people who aren't writers, that sounds crazy. But I think it's like that for a lot of writers. I think was it Stephanie Meyer? Stephanie Meyer said, from the Twilight series, said that she would be in the grocery store, and Edward would talk to her when she was in the grocery store, and I remember hearing that and being like, I understand that. I understand what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's plot. I don't know. It depends. It really kind of depends on the story.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's absolutely how my series began. I had this character who just kept chattering in my ear, telling me his story, telling me what he wants to do next, like telling me about his escapades. I was like, well, I should write this down. Like,
It's like channeling. You're
they,
like channeling.
yeah, it's like,
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
do you have a favorite author, and what's something you feel they do best?
Oh, yes. My favorite author is a lady by the name of Karen Russell, and I think it's Karen or Catherine. I think it's Karen Russell. She wrote a book called Swamplandia a couple of years ago. But before that, she had several collections of short stories, and so um, I'm a mom, and I have two kids. My kids were 18 months apart, and I still wanted to read, but during that time, I just couldn't commit to big, big novels. Excuse me,
Right.
I just couldn't commit to that. And so I sat down and started reading her short stories, and I was like, these are great. They're creepy as all get out. They're a lot of fun. Um, and I just loved her style of writing. And then I thought, well, I'm going to sit down and read Swamplandia. And Swamplandia is my favorite book. It takes place in the Everglades, and being South Florida, the Everglades has a soft spot in my heart. But it's a family that has kind of like a tourist attraction, and they have a show that they do, and they take care of alligators, but it's a family, and the mom dies, but she dies in the beginning, so it's not like a spoiler.
Right.
And then the family is just looking to trying to figure out how they can move on, trying to figure out how they can still make money with the tourist attraction. But there's a real paranormal, real odd twist to it, and I don't want to give it away, but it's really, really good. But I think one of the things that I learned from her was number one, short stories and collections of short stories are uh, are viable. I mean, it's a form of storytelling in a condensed version. Um, and everybody, like when I started out with The Short End of Madness, collections of short stories don't sell. Collections of short stories don't sell. And I was like, I disagree, because I went ahead and I bought, her short stories, and she was so such an inspiration for me. And I thought, I'm gonna go ahead and try it too. So, but yeah, she's my favorite author. I love her.
Yeah. And I did Google real quick. It is Karen. You were right.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was Karen or Catherine. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know.
No, and I was like, let me check, because if it's a good book, we like to give the right recommendation name.
Yeah. So yeah, Karen Russell Swamplandia is it's so good. If you enjoy it, so it's not gory, but it's that paranormal, creepy kind of
That's to me, that's the best horror. It's not necessarily like a lot of action stabbing, but it's like when it gets in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, the chills.
Yeah. There was this book that I read. It's called Stolen Tongues, and it's by what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. But I was writing I was writing a story, and I was like, there's not enough description. I feel like I was kind of Anne Ricing myself, like Anne Rice.
Right.
If you for work, it's like, there's like, this is what the wallpaper looked like, and this is what it smelled like, and then this is what it tasted like. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm not giving enough description. And Felix Blackwell, that's what his name was. Felix Blackwell.
I just Googled that. I was like,
yeah. And but I read Stolen Tongues, and I didn't even really think about the kind of descriptions that he was giving with things. But this was a scary book. This was like, I would say first chapter is probably one of the best first chapters I think I've ever read in a book. You're on the edge of your seat and you have to know what happens next. And then I saw an interview with him, and he said that he purposefully leaves details out because the reader, their brain, fills in the blanks. And when the reader can connect with a story like that, it makes it real and it makes it scary because it's they're personally attaching themselves to it. So I was like, oh, I love that. And so now I find myself doing that on purpose, where I'll go ahead and I'll leave things out because I want the reader to fill in the blank, you know?
No, they say like imagination starts with the writer but ends in the reader, and I agree, because I remember reading somebody's story, and they were talking about this dress, right? Dress not important to the story, like just wearing a dress to an event, and they were talking about the high collar and all the buttons that went down and the type of fabric and the embroidery and the skirt style, and I was just like, this is a lot for a dress that doesn't matter like that much. It was just overly described, and so it was just like there is that line that it was like that balance of being like, yes, give some description, but you don't want to like, you know, beat someone over the head with the description either, like leave some imagination to themselves. Because it does, it's a great way of making it personal for them as well. Like
I feel people feel connected. I did with Stolen Trust.
Yeah,
that was scary stuff. That was scary. It was good. It was really good. Yeah.
It's definitely a balancing act between giving enough description, giving too little description, giving too much description, you know.
Right.
If you give too little, it's a white void and they don't know what's going on. Right. And if there's too much description, you bog your story down with too many words about things that don't necessarily matter, or people just skip that and move down to the next action or dialogue.
Right. There's also like the such variance in writing style. Like when you read Anne, like Montgomery, like who wrote Anne of Green Gables and stuff, very different from Mark Twain, you know, or Hemingway and stuff too.
The literary stuff that's a bit older, they got away with a lot more.
They usually were writing by the word. That's why. You're getting paid by the word.
Now. It was a different time, you know. I feel like, you know, it was with that kind of writing, it was a different time, and I think it was almost expected. But
like I was saying, it depends, because like I want to say Dostoevsky was like, he got paid by the line, so there's a lot of in his dialogue, oh, I said this, oh, you said that, and so there's a little bit of repetition in his dialogue, whereas Dickens was paid by the word, so he's like, let me describe this lamp for 2 paragraphs.
Right. We have to pay the bill. So let me go ahead.
Yeah, we have to pay the bill. So I'm going to just get as many words in here as possible. But I do think it is very different. Like the focus, the attention span we have today for like not skipping over things like that is very different than back then. Yeah.
It's interesting now because I mean it's just a different time, and you know now like word economy. You know what I mean? Like you go ahead and you start writing, and you're like, you know what? How can I make this better? How can I make it tighter? And I mean, that's one of the things I love about writing a good short story. Can I do it within, within the word, the word amount? And, can we take things out, and I think, writing and the creating is important, but going back, with your, X-Acto knife or your delete key.
Making things sharper. Yes.
Yeah.
No,
really.
I would say like it's nice, like you can say it in 10, why say it in 20, right? 10 words, why say it in 20? But unless you need varying sentences, I always tell my students and stuff, because I tutor on the side, but I'm like, yes, varying your sentences and like picking like really great impactful strong word choices that are like exact and precise, like that's the easiest way to kind of elevate your writing. So it's like every now and then you can have like a really long, beautiful, lyrical, poetical description, but a lot of times I will say like, yeah, if you can say it in 10 words, don't use 20.
Yeah. Right. You don't have to Jane Austen it every time.
Yes. No, balance, everything in balance. Yeah.
Right.
All right. What is something that you feel like you've learned from the writing process? Something you didn't know when you started out?
Everything. Gosh.
Right.
No, I mean,
That's fair.
Yeah, I you don't know what you don't know. And when I started out, I was like, I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to jump in. And so I jumped in. I'm like, I don't really know. I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to write the best story that I can.
Yeah.
I know what I like to read, and I think that helped a lot. So
Mhm.
reading like Stephen King's short stories, reading Karen Russell's short stories, I know what I like to read, and I thought I have an idea for something. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to write it and see what happens, submit it and see what happens. As far as um, being an independent author, again, it was just one of those things, and I just decided I'm just going to jump in. I sat down and I collected the stories for the Short End of Madness, and I got on
Mhm.
KDP, and I thought I'm going to figure this out. I'm just going to figure
Yeah.
it out, and it took me about 2 or 3 weeks, and there were a couple of times where I wanted to take my laptop and chuck it into the lake,
Right.
um, but you just have to start, and
Yeah.
so you just have to start, and you have to just be kind with yourself. You're going to make mistakes. Um, and I don't know. I think if there's one thing that if I could, give advice to somebody starting out, just start and
Mhm.
ask questions. And you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Just
Yes.
start, do it.
And a lot of us learn better kind of by doing, as you said, just jumping in and like figuring out as you go. Because you can
Mhm.
research a lot and still get to that point in the stage and be like, oh, what's better though, white or ivory? You're still gonna have to figure it out as you're doing it in a lot
Yeah.
of ways and like making those decisions.
It's interesting. You talk about like we talk about our journey, right? The writer's journey,
Mhm.
and you don't really think about it until you're in the middle of something and you're like, oh yeah, and then you casually think back, oh yeah, that's right. I remember when I went ahead and I put my first draft together, and I remember struggling with KDP, and I remember all of that, and you just don't realize like where you are. We don't think about it. We don't really.
Right.
I don't anyway. Yeah, the Florida Writers Association, they have a conference every year in Altamont Springs, and
Mhm.
so this year will be my third year. But the first time that I went, I didn't know anyone, and
Mhm.
the workshops that they had, like it was just I couldn't write fast enough. There was so much information, and it was just so great.
Right.
And then
Yes.
I went back the next year, and I attended some of the same panels, and I was like, I've heard this, but I'm hearing it with different ears because I'm in a different place now. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
No, that is very, very valid, very true that like revisiting knowledge or information is never bad because you're always at a different place in your journey where you can be like, oh, I'm picking up on this. Like the first time you heard it, you get the basics, and then you get more like niche or more just detailed as you go. Like the more
Mhm.
you read something, like I love rereading books because it's like I'm a different person every time I read it, so I get something
Yes.
different from it each time.
You have a
Yeah,
better understanding. Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
about like and this is musicals, but have you ever seen the musical Les Mis? Everybody has seen
Yeah.
Les Mis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I was introduced to Les Mis when I was in high school, and I got something out of it then, and then
Mhm.
later on, I you know, I got married and I listened to it and I got something different out of it. And then
Yes.
I had kids and I got something out of it. Like every time it's always been
Mhm.
something different. You're in a different
Yeah.
place in life, and sometimes you're not ready to hear certain things, but it's the same thing with the
Right.
writer's journey. Yeah. That's
Yeah, no,
exciting.
and that's no, it's great, and I really love that you take the time to look back and see how far you've come because we're always looking for like how far we still have to go, but it's
Mhm.
always good to take that moment to pause and be like, look how much progress I've made. I know it feels like I've got miles ahead, but I've got miles behind me from where I started as well. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
love that
Definitely.
perspective.
Yeah. I know. So every year, I have a book and writing festival. It's called Read It, Write It Book and Writing Festival. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and every year, there's always people that show up that are like, I'm interested in
Mhm.
writing and I don't know where to start. And it's just, I think back to like when I was just starting out and I had so many questions.
Mhm.
And it's just so great to like bring people together and have people be able to talk to other people. This is my journey. This is what I think you should do. You should talk to this person, that
Mhm.
person. Um, we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. I love that part.
No, and like I said, like you were saying, they can be great places to like get information, like conventions and things like that. Going to those writing conferences and like getting that information is so helpful too. And then meeting everyone at cons and stuff is very fun.
Oh gosh, you know what? The cons and then the book events, they are just so
Mhm.
much fun. You never know who you're gonna meet. You like you
Yes,
never.
yes.
It's so fun. Yeah, I know. At the Florida Writers Association, my first year, I met a really nice group of ladies, and we meet, through Zoom. It's usually
Oh
every 2 weeks.
yeah.
Sometimes it's every 3 weeks. But this is my core,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we hold each other accountable.
Oh
We hold our
good.
feet to the fire, but they're
Mhm.
my ride or die girls. They're
Yes,
my ride.
and it's so important to find your people that like they get it, that like writing stories like makes you want to tear your hair out, but it's also your favorite thing in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, you need people who get the struggle.
Right. And also people that are like, mm, Heidi, you said you were gonna have this done. What happened, girl?
Right, right, yes. This
No.
is a week late. Where is my draft that I need to
Yeah.
read? Yes,
Right. Right. Come
yes.
on. Come on. Come on now. You can do this. Come on. Yeah. Everybody needs that
Yeah,
little nudge.
yeah,
Yeah.
that cheerleader in your corner.
Mhm.
Right.
There's someone with a whip behind you, like
Right.
keep moving.
Yeah.
Yes.
A
I
gentle
prefer
whip.
carrot.
Maybe a whip made of
I
feathers.
prefer carrot. Yeah, like put something nice in front of me. Like encourage me. The behavior
Right.
we want to see.
A carrot. How about a donut? Let's make
Yeah,
it a donut. Let's
that's
Yes,
better.
donut. Yes, donut on a stick, and I
Yeah,
will happily follow it. Yes,
that's
yes.
much better imagery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
never
funny.
understood the carrot thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say, people that run, I don't know if either of you are runners, but the only way that you'd be able to get me to run like that is if there was a bear behind me and maybe a Krispy Kreme donut truck in front of me. That's the
Right,
only way.
Yeah.
right.
That's
Yeah.
the way I'm
Ice cream
running.
truck, we're chasing it. Yep.
And a bear. Don't forget the bear. Bear behind me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
Right.
So
I think
yeah.
we should jump to our favorite questions. So my favorite question is, what has been your most significant writing victory so far?
Ooh, significant writing victory. I set a goal for myself. Okay, this is no joke. This was New Year's Eve, um, and this was a couple of years back. But in my right, and I think I wrote it down, that I wanted to be paid for my writing. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be
Mhm.
paid for my writing, and I had submitted something. This is no joke. I woke up New Year's Day. I was actually still in bed, and I opened my phone and I was looking at my email, and I got an email from D&T Publishing, who said that they accepted my story and that they were going to be sending me money. And so I was like, man, if that isn't
Okay.
manifestation,
Yes.
I don't know. I
Absolutely.
don't know what it is. Yes. So now,
Absolutely.
yeah. So now, my goal really is to be able to have a sustainable writer's career, to be
Mhm.
able to live comfortably off my writing. And
Yeah.
so, it would just it's a struggle. It's really hard, but we just have to keep going. We just have to keep going. So I
Mhm.
think anytime that you can do something that you love and get paid for it, dude, that's a
Yes.
victory. Yeah.
Oh yes.
That is a
100%.
victory. Yes.
Yep. 100%. 100%. I always tell my kids, if you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So
Right. Exactly. We do want to give you an opportunity to tell us where we can find you, more about you, more information about you and your books online. So here's a good time to share your socials, your website, anything like that,
Yeah. Show us your
absolutely. So,
covers if you have
oh
them.
yes,
and covers if you have them. Yeah.
I sure do. I sure do. Where are they? Here they are. Here they are. Okay. So right now I have the Chronicles of Chaos. There's Chronicles of Chaos. That's my latest collection. That's on Amazon. We have a Short End of Madness. That's my second collection. And then my very first is the what is this? The Short End of Madness. Had to look at it for a second because I forgot. But where you can find me. So my books are on Amazon. But I do a lot of shows. And if you'd like to have it signed, you've got to make sure you come out to the shows and buy a book, and I'll sign it for you. I'm really active on Instagram and then Facebook. So my Facebook is my personal page. So that's Heidi A. Hess. That's where you can find me on Facebook. On Instagram, it's Creates Heidi. And Heidi Creates is kind of like my umbrella
Mm-hmm.
website, and there's my website too at HeidiCreates.net. And that's kind of the umbrella for my book and writing festival, which is Read It, Write It Book and Writing Festival, and then my author career. And that's really that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for being a guest. We've had a lovely conversation with you. We appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for having me, and it was great to see you guys at the show, and it's been wonderful being on the tell not show show.
Yes. We'll
Yes.
play with words we did. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, the
Yes.
tell not show show is
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So thank you very
Yeah.
much for asking me. This was great.
Yeah. No, we've had a lovely conversation. Like I said,
Yes.
really enjoyed it. And
Same
thank you to
here.
everyone listening along at home. Remember, there's more than one way up a mountain. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find us on social media at The Tell Not Show or email us at thetellnotshow@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and liking. We appreciate all the support. Julia J.K. Allen is an author, editor, and coach and can be found at hijinksrudder.com.
Kirsha Fox is an author, avid reader, gamer, and mother to four, and you can find her at kirshafox.com. Thanks and see you next time.